They thought they could take everything from him: his land, his voice, his dignity. The HOA moved in with their rules, their homes, and their arrogance, believing no one would fight back. But what they didn't expect was that the very ground they built on held a secret one that could wash it all away in a single moment. This isn't just about property lines. It's about power, injustice, and a man pushed to the edge. What happens when the system takes too much until the only answer is to take it all back? For years, Marcus lived quietly on the land his grandfather left him. Acres of fields stretched wide, bordered by a river that had always been both a gift and a responsibility. Neighbors knew him as the man who worked hard, kept to himself, and honored the history of the soil beneath his feet. This land wasn't just property, it was legacy. His grandfather had fought to keep it during a time when Black families were pushed off their farms with lies, intimidation, or worse. Every fence post, every crop, every stone of the dam by the river carried the weight of sacrifice and survival. But change came creeping in. Wealthy newcomers arrived with big cars, polished shoes, and the backing of a homeowners association. They didn't see Marcus's history. They didn't care about his family's blood in the soil. To them, it was just unused land, prime space for development. At first, Marcus tried not to worry. He thought respect for boundaries was common sense. But whispers started. Papers shifted hands. And soon, he could feel a storm building on the horizon. It began quietly, letters in his mailbox. They told him his trees were too tall, his fences didn't meet community standards, his barn wasn't painted the approved color. Marcus laughed them off. He never signed up for their HOA, never agreed to their rules. His land was his dot, but the letters kept coming. Then one morning, he saw bright orange stakes hammered into his fields. Survey markers. Someone had laid claim to the soil his grandfather once plowed. He tore them out, but the next day, more appeared. And then came the truck's heavy machines rumbling over his grass, digging deep, pouring foundations for houses he never approved. He marched into the HOA board meeting, demanding answers. The board members smiled politely, but their words were dripping with condescension. Progress, they called it. Community growth. What they really meant was, your history doesn't matter. You don't matter. Within months, the land was unrecognizable. Steel frames and half-finished houses stood where his crops once grew. Neighbors he had known for years avoided his gaze, whispering that maybe it was time for him to move on, as if he were a stranger in the very place his family had built. The pressure mounted. Letters turned into fines. Fines turned into threats. Then came men in suits with papers claiming ownership of parts of his property. And finally, the blow that broke him, an eviction notice nailed to his front door. Vacate immediately. That night, Marcus walked to the river. The dam loomed before him, built decades ago to control the water's flow. He felt the weight pressing behind it, the restless power waiting, and he realized the land still listened to him. If the system insisted he was powerless, they had forgotten one thing: nature could not be silenced. The HOA thought they had stripped him of everything, but they had no idea what was coming. The night was too still, as though the earth itself was holding its breath. Behind Marcus, the glow of half-built homes lit the horizon. In his pocket, the eviction notice burned like fire, each word a reminder that they intended to erase him completely. From their new homes, the HOA celebrated music and laughter spilling into the night sky. To them, victory was already won. Marcus was a relic, a man out of place, easy to dismiss. But they hadn't seen the man standing in the shadows by the river. They hadn't seen the lever his grandfather once showed him, the one that held back years of pressure, both water and rage. Marcus's chest heaved as he pulled it down. The sound thundered across the valley. The dam shuddered, then released. Water surged forward, roaring with unstoppable force. The river, once calm and patient, became a wall of fury. It tore through the streets, crashing into the houses built on stolen ground. Lights flickered, screams erupted, chaos swallowed the neighborhood whole. For the first time, the HOA looked powerless. Their empire of rules, fines, and arrogance crumbled beneath the flood. Marcus stood tall, no longer invisible, no longer ignored in that moment. He wasn't just one man. He was the voice of generations' silence, the echo of injustice unleashed. And as the water consumed everything they thought untouchable, one truth rang louder than the destruction itself. They thought I was invisible. Tonight, they will never forget me. When the floodwaters receded, silence fell. The houses were wrecked, the HOA's empire scattered like debris. Marcus remained, standing on the soil his family had fought to keep, not as a victim, but as a man who forced the world to listen. And yet victory felt heavy. The destruction around him was proof of how far the system had pushed him. All he ever wanted was dignity, respect, to keep what was his. But instead, he was cornered until the only choice left was devastation. This is more than Marcus's story. It's the story of countless Black families who've lost land to predatory laws, discriminatory policies, and powerful associations that decided their voices didn't matter. When people are ignored long enough, when their rights are stripped away piece by piece, eventually, something breaks. Marcus's flood wasn't just water. It was history demanding to be seen. It was a warning so the question remains, how many more storms, how many more floods, how many more voices will it take before we finally face the injustice woven into our foundations? Because if we keep ignoring these stories, the next flood may not stop at one neighborhood.